think of this as a basic hair transplant consultation. That will be easy. So we'll start from the beginning. When we talk about hair loss, in this session we'll be talking about the common baldness that we see. It is also called androgenic alopecia or pattern hair loss. That's where you see people losing hair from this area, but never from this area. So that's called androgenetic alopecia in medical terms, and common baldness as we know it. Now this problem of baldness is becoming more and more common in the past few decades, and it is occurring at a younger and younger age. And people want to know the reason behind it and how to treat it. So first of all, what causes this baldness? See, it's nothing to do with the water, the diet or those things. The basic thing is when we are born, that time the genes from both sides of the family, the mother and the father, they determine which hair will be susceptible to testosterone, at what age, and what age a person will become bald. If I have to go into scientific terms, I'll go and explain it to you that the testosterone which the body makes is converted into dihydrotestosterone by an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. Now that enzyme, once the DHT is formed, that acts on the dermal papilla cells and slowly it damages them, so that the hair loss is not overnight. One sees hair becoming finer, smaller and thinner, eventually leading to permanent hair fall. So that is how we can identify that this is not alopecia areata, this is androgenetic alopecia, pattern hair loss. There are a few things once you come to us, or if you go to any particular hair transplant doctor, that they would want to know. What, especially if you are a young patient who has not had too much hair loss, just maybe receding a bit, maybe just in your 20s. What we want to know is, what is your family history of hair loss? Do not try to hide it, because I always tell, think of the worst case scenario. Any of your relatives at any age, how much hair loss did he have? And let us plan according to that, assuming that you may get that level of hair loss. Okay, one of your uncle on your mother's side had hair loss till here, but all the other people on your father's side and mother's side had no hair loss. But I'll still try to and ask you to plan according to that worst case scenario. Right? The second thing which I would like to know is, what is the speed of hair loss? Is it slow? Has it stopped? Is it rapid? Because if it is rapid, if you're losing hair at a fast pace, let's say just 1 centimeter more hair loss at every 2 or 3 months, then that's not the time to do a hair transplant. Because if you transplant hair in this place, they'll take time, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months to grow. And by that time, if you have 1 to 2 centimeter hair loss behind that, and you again have to come for that. Second thing we need to know is whether you have any illness, any family history of any complications like diabetes, hypertension, and if you are allergic to any particular medicine or anything. It's simple, small little things, but they matter. Are you currently on any medications, or have you been taking any medications previously for trying to slow down or stop your hair loss? Have they worked? Did they help you? If they helped you, how long have you been taking them? And if they did not help you, how long ago did you stop them? Two of the conditions which I usually talk to patients about is diabetes and hypertension. See, if you have hypertension, then you have to tell your doctor who is treating you for hypertension that, okay, I'm going for this surgery, please let me know what dosage change should I do, or should I keep the same dosage. And when you are coming for the hair transplant, do take your medicine, do take your regular hypertension medicine. Do not stop it. The second thing is about diabetes. Now, diabetes is a condition in which hair transplant is not ruled out, but we have to, the patient as well as the doctor, both of us have to work in conjunction. We have to make sure that we can take all the precautions The patient has to make sure that he can follow up the protocol so that there is no complications following the procedure. And if you want, in fact, I would advise you to take the detailed DVD from my staff about how to go about hair transplant in case you have diabetes. It's not a complicated thing, just small little precautions which will help you. Now, people ask sometimes, all the people have not done that much research. They say, if we have lost hair from this place, then how come the other hair, if we transplant from here, how are we sure that that will grow? See, in scientific terms, what we know is called the principle of donor dominance. Now we'll talk about the principle of donor dominance. That is the basic thing behind hair transplant. See, our hair, they look almost the same. This hair, it's all the same. But genetically they are different. The beard hair is different, the hair in this area. If you see, it keeps on growing till ripe old age in everyone. It's genetically different. So this, if we consider as the donor area, if we take out a hair follicle from here and place it anywhere, let it be the head or eyebrow or even the hand, it will keep on growing the same way and for the same time as it would grow in its original location. That is called the principle of donor dominance, right? So that is how it works. If you have a lot of hair loss and we are going to take a lot of hair from this place and try to fill it up, and then you say, oh, all of it cannot be filled up. So what we do? We can take hair from this and then we can put it on top. But remember, when we are taking hair from the beard, it's going to be coarse, wavy maybe different color. So all these things have to be factored in. So this is principle of donor dominance, that the hair will grow in the same way in the transplanted place as it grew in its original location. And when I say the same way, I mean it will retain its same diameter, its same curl, its same growth cycles, and its same length. This is basic thing behind it. Now when you are going for a simple hair transplant, you also need to know what area, you as well as your doctor needs to know what area to take out the hair from. Sometimes I see people, unfortunate people, in whom someone has taken out hair from the unsafe donor area. That is a very wrong thing. The safe donor area is very specifically this particular area. You do not take out hair from this area, even if the person has a lot of hair. That hair, if you take out hair from this area, transplant it in front, there is a possibility that that hair would be lost. So that is not medically acceptable. Okay? So as you can see in the pictures, we have shown with these are the lines, this which demarcate the safe donor area. Hair roots should always be taken out from just these places. Next thing, you may have often heard of doctors and people talking about grafts, and then suddenly you think, what is grafts? It's nothing, it's just the way hair grows in nature. As you can see in the picture, this is a picture of the scalp of a person with the hair trimmed. Hair grows in groupings of 1, 2, 3 or rarely 4 hair in one place. Now that individual grouping is called a follicular unit. The best way is to take these entire intact follicular units one by one and transplant them. When we transplant them in this way, it's called follicular unit transplant. If done correctly, in the correct angles, direction and densities, it gives a wonderful appearance. Absolutely natural, so that you cannot make out a difference and you get what you want, a head of hair back again. Now, when I talk of grafts, I also must tell you that, okay, when we take out this one, like if you can see in the picture, the beard graft of the same person is much thicker than the scalp graft. Similarly, the beard graft or the abdominal graft of the same person may have a curl, whereas the head hair may be straight. So when doing a transplant, the hair transplant doctor has to factor all these things. So now we come to the crux. What exactly is hair transplant? If I have to say in a single sentence, I'll say it's a surgical and an artistic redistribution or relocation of hair follicles from the permanent or safe donor areas into the bald or balding area. Long sentence, no? But that is it. Once these hair have been transplanted into that area, they'll keep on growing as they grew in their original location for the rest of the patient's life, except barring rare conditions. If a person goes for a chemotherapy or something happens, an autoimmune disorder, and the person loses hair from all his body, then of course the transplanted hair will go. But otherwise, these transplanted hair keep on growing for the rest of the patient's life. Now we come to the next step. So what are the types of hair transplant? When I am going to talk about types of hair transplant, I am going to talk only of the modern, the cutting edge ones. We will not talk about outdated methods. So there are two basic different methods of hair transplant. Both are accepted as good ones. One is the follicular unit hair transplant, also called the strip method, in which a strip of skin, including the hair roots, is taken from the safe donor area. You can see that in the picture, how the area is marked and how then it's cut. Once it is taken out, the particular wound is closed with sutures or staples, so that the hair on top covers it immediately. Now those grafts which are in that strip are then trimmed under magnification and then transplanted. However, some people are afraid of stitches. I know I am. So what to do? So the other method is to go for the stitchless method, and that is called the fuse, F-U-S-E, or some people call it F-U-E. And basic thing is, in this method we take out the grafts one by very tiny instruments, so that the resulting wound is just 0.8 millimeter in diameter. The wounds are so tiny that we do not need to close them, no sutures required, and they heal within a couple of days. However, placing of the grafts in the recipient area in both the methods is same. So let's discuss the pros and cons of both the methods. Let's see the benefit of a strip method. One, it's fast. In a single day, we can take out a full strip and transplant. Some people we can transplant 5,000, even 6,000 grafts, depending upon the density and laxity you have. Second, it's cost effective, of course, because we need less labor, less time for it. And third, of course, is that we do not have to shave this entire area. We just put a suture and the hair covers it. As you can see in the picture, this shows it. The disadvantage is that it is more invasive. We are taking out a chunk of flesh from the body and then suturing it. So once the sutures are there, there will be pain. Of course, we will be giving painkillers, but there will be tenderness in that area for some time. If you have got any surgery done ever and had sutures, you will understand what I am saying. The second is, you will have a visible scar. It may be thin, very thin, but if you shave it off, then there will be a visible scar in the back. No matter what anyone says, there is no such thing as an invisible scar. So that is another thing. Then you cannot shave that area. Of course, there is a possibility, there is another option, that once you have that scar and you do not like the scar and you want to cut your hair short, you can put grafts into that scar. But you must know beforehand that yes, that is the disadvantage, one of the disadvantages of strip. Now, what about the fuse technique? In the fuse technique or FUE, one, we have to shave the entire head if we have to take a significant number of grafts. If you ask me take 3000 grafts, I will need to shave this area. If you tell me just take out 200 grafts, maybe I'll just shave this area and you can cover. There are many people who cannot fit this thing into their social life, and I normally tell them, see, you do not have to fit your life into your hair transplant. It has to be the other way around. The hair transplant has to fit into your life. So think about it. Can you go around with a shaven head? If you can, good. Personally, if I have to get hair transplant for myself, I'll go by the fuse method. But then I am a hair transplant doctor, so I can always shave off and say, oh, I got it done. But you have to decide about yourself, okay? The second thing, of course, is that it is more costly, about 3.5 times more costly. And third thing is it takes more time. If I have to do 5000 grafts, I will need at least, let's say, 3 days of surgery. So these are the pros and cons. The benefit of the fuse technique, however, is twofold. No, I would say threefold. One, a person can go for a small session. Many people are afraid. They want to say, okay, let me just get 100, 200 grafts placed. So that is possible with that, without a stitch. So you come to know, okay, the hair can be transplanted and the transplanted hair will grow, and this is how I will feel. The second, of course, is that there is no suture, no stitch, so no pain. You are not taking out an entire chunk of flesh out of the body. And the third is that since there is no suture line, you can easily go for a buzz cut, a crew cut, maybe even shave. And with the fuse technique, you can get more grafts. How? Because you can take out grafts even from here and use them on top of your head. People used to come and say, see, I'm losing hair on top and I have hair all around. So in the fuse technique, we can get more grafts. Then many people, in fact, if they have a lot of hair loss, they want to go for a combination of grafts. They say, let's take strip also, let's take fuse also, let's take this. Give me 10,000 or even 20,000 hair on top. So sometimes combining both of the methods is also required. Now you can see in some of these results, for example, this is a strip method. And this you can see a youthful hairline. Another example. One more. Sometimes patients prefer a higher hairline. So this thing has to be decided between the doctor and patient, what sort of a hairline they want. It is not entirely up to me or whichever doctor is doing it. There are some patients who need to have undergone bad transplants, with plugs and all those, like this example. They have to know that yes, it can be corrected, as you can see in the picture, and it can look normal once again. We come across many patients of this sort, and I hope I can convey to them that no, now it is possible for you to get a safe, natural look once again. In the end, I would like to thank you, and in case you have any queries, just email them to this email address, and I hope this was educational and beneficial for you. Thank you once again.